Welcome back to another video about how to heal adoption and narcissistic abuse. If you are new to my channel, my name is Lærke Theodora. I work as a spiritual and psychological counselor, and I am an adoptee myself. I have been wanting to make this video for a while, actually. I experienced recently that made me decide to make this video was that I was watching some videos on YouTube about adoption. Some of the videos that came forward was from adoptive families that had millions of subscribers, and their videos had been watched by millions of people. What they were basically doing was they were completely taking advantage of the fact that they had adopted someone else's children. They had taken advantage of the fact that they had just split family members apart. They had split a mother from her child. They were making money from the fact that they traumatized someone else's child. And I know that I'm portraying kind of negative and kind of extreme, but we can look at this in many ways, and this is one of the ways that I think we also need to look at it. We can't just continue this illusionary dream, this illusionary world or illusionary reality where it's completely normal to traumatize a child because we have a couple that just desperately want to adopt a child. They desperately want to create this family, but they have no idea what they're going into. They have no idea what they're walking into. And I'm not saying that these YouTube channels that I found on YouTube, that their parents are narcissistic. I'm not saying that at all, but it just made me reflect a little bit more about what kind of information that we have out there online on the internet. And the fact is, there are not many YouTube channels like mine, and that is a concern. It's a huge concern that not more people are talking about the more hidden side, the shadow side of adoption, that not more people are speaking about adoption from an adoptive's perspective. I know that a lot of adopted people, they are speaking out, and I think that's amazing, and we need to continue with that. I also know that there is so much fear around speaking out. There's fear around being exposed, being found by the adoptive family members, and that they're gonna call you out. I know that from my own life very much as well, that fear is very real, and it's a very uncomfortable fear to have, and we don't need more fear than we're already experiencing and producing within us. So that was a very long intro to this video, and what I actually want to talk about is the truth about narcissistic adoptive parents. I don't even want to call them parents anymore. I want to call them narcissistic adopters, because that's what they are. They are not parents, because the way that they are treating children has nothing to do with parenting or parenthood. Nothing at all. They are literally taking these children and then they're breaking them down mentally, bit by bit by bit, and they're actually enjoying watching the adopted children being broken the way that they want them to be, that they're completely manipulating them, controlling them, distorting their reality, and breaking them into multiple pieces. And then the adopted people, they can go and spend the rest of their life trying to find back to who they are and who they want to be. And some people, they never find back. They never find back because they are that damaged. When an adopted person has grown up in a narcissistic adoptive family, It can have permanent consequences for the rest of the adopted person's life. It can have permanent consequences. That's how dangerous narcissistic adopters are. They are literally dangerous to children. They should never be allowed to adopt. They should never even be near children, even near other people's children. They should never do that, because what they're doing is so inhumane. It is so brutal how they're treating the adopted children. It's so brutal. And there is no wonder why so many adopted people, they're struggling, navigating through adulthood. They're suffering from all kind of consequences. They're suffering from chronic anxiety, PTSD, CPTSD, and depression, and they're suffering from so many things. And some of them, their attachment is so disrupted, so they will struggle maybe for the rest of their life when engaging with other people, when trying to connect with other people. They will struggle with that because they've been that damaged by these narcissistic adopters. When a child is being adopted, they are being adopted by narcissistic adopters for one reason. They are being given this job to fulfill the adopter's need and dream and wishes. That's the function the adopted child has. That's the function they have in the family. That's their job. That is literally a job that they have to wake up every day, go to work and do. That's what they were hired to do by these narcissistic adopters. It's their job. They're paying this with their life to do this job. It will cost them their happiness. It will cost them everything. It will cost them their happiness. For many adopted people, it costs them their happiness. It costs them the ability to live a normal, calm, safe, secure life. It will cost them the experience of being in a safe and loving relationship because they're unable to do it. They're unable to hold on to healthy people on the other side. That's how damaging these narcissistic adopters they are. That's what they're doing. That's how much harm they are exposing adopted people to. And the worst part of it is not even the long-term consequences for the adopted people. It's actually that the whole society is gaslighting their experiences. They're gaslighting their pain. They're gaslighting the root cause of why they suffer from PTSD, why they suffer from depression, why they suffer from severe anxiety, why they could not get a degree, why they can't build a family with a partner, why they can't maintain a job. The whole society is completely gaslighting the reason to why they are so hurt and they're in so much pain, and why their soul is screaming for them to heal and recover from whatever these narcissistic adopters did to them. The society doesn't care. They don't care at all, because in their eyes, these narcissistic adopters, they're heroes. They're Superman. They're coming, they're saving these children, giving them a better life, giving them all their so-called fucked up love that they are convincing everyone that is real love, caring love, authentic love. But the narcissistic adopter's definition of love is actually this job that the adoptive children they were given, that they were hired to do. That's the love. as long as the adopted children, they are doing their job very, very well, the adoptive parents or narcissistic adopters, they will give them a little piece of what this so-called love looks like. But the adopted children have to work very, very hard to receive this love, which isn't even real love. It's an illusion. Because one thing that's very certain about narcissistic adopters is that they are completely unable to feel any authentic emotions towards other people. They are so messed up within themselves that what they call love is just garbage. It's worthless. This is what they are projecting onto their children. But they're making sure that no one knows outside of the family. They're making sure that they can treat and break down their adopted children exactly how they want to do it. Because no one will believe the adopted children anyway. No one will believe them. Because this story of being this hero, this Superman that's saving these adopted children, it's bulletproof. It's completely bulletproof. And it's being backed up by the adoption industry also. And that's the really sick part of this. It's a very, very sick narrative. It's a very sick idea, sick perspective. What's interesting about this is that we don't even have to look very hard to see and realize how the whole adoption narrative, the whole perspective that the adoption industry and narcissistic adopters have in common, that they share, how this is very, very sick and how it's not in the benefit of the child, how this is not benefiting the child at all. One of the ways we can look at this is by the way the adoption takes place, that depending on which country we're talking about, is often being a very, very rapid transition. The transition from being in a foster care, being at an orphanage, to the adoptive parents. Sometimes it happens the same day. But we know from developmental psychology that this is not healthy for children. They need a very long transition in order to go through something that is so overwhelming and that's so fatal. They need way more time in order to do this. And also when we look at the connection to the biological mother, so many people have talked about this very important connection with the biological mother and how many things they are already developing when the child is still in the mother's womb. There's so many books that's been written about this, but when it comes to adoption, it's like these books doesn't exist. They don't exist. It's only the adoption narrative that exists. It's like completely different rule set. It's a completely different game when we are stepping into the industry of adoption and completely forgetting everything we know about children's psychology, developmental psychology. It's like none of it matters when we're talking about adoption. Another aspect is also when we are adopting children from other countries, like international adoption, intercountry adoption, there are many names for that. What's very clear about this type of adoption is that the amount of money that the narcissistic adopters have to pay in order to be able to adopt a child in another country that's located in another country is that this amount of money is often quite huge. And if we took that money instead and gave it to either the children's parents, if they were in a position where they wanted to raise them. I know that's not always the case, but let's pretend that's the case. If we gave that amount of money, then the mother would have enough resources to raise a child. And if the case is that the mother can't raise the child for other reasons that has nothing to do with the financial aspect, then we could give this money to some family members of the child. Or we could place the child in a local adoptive family so they didn't need to travel to another country. So they wouldn't be exposed to all this racism and feeling like strangers, not being able to mirror themselves in other people because they come from another country. We could avoid a lot of that. And lastly, I want to say to all the adopted people who are watching this video right now that it wasn't your fault. You have not done anything wrong at all. You are a victim of a crime that's not being recognized because it is a crime to abuse children. It's actually a crime, but it's not being recognized. And that's also a crime. It should be a crime that is not being recognized. No matter how difficult it is for you to carry all these experiences that you were exposed to and that you went through, that you're holding on to within your heart, you are not alone, and you will get through it. I have seen so many adopted people make it to the other side that went through something that was so inhumane, and they all had the strength within them to make it to the other side, and you have that strength too. Otherwise, you would not be watching this video. Whenever you feel like it's just too much, it's too hard, and you want to give up, just take a step back, take some deep breath, go into nature, stop whatever you're doing, and just connect with yourself, connect with your heart. If it's difficult to connect with your body because you have so much trauma stored there, connect with your breath, start with that. And go out to nature if that's possible, because nature holds a very healing power that we can benefit from. One thing I always recommend to people that I work with is to journal. Keep a journal of your thoughts, what you're experiencing, what you're thinking, what you're going through. It's very, very healing as well. It's very therapeutic to do. And the last thing I want to say to you who's watching this video is that whenever you feel like you're not good enough, I want you to remember that this is something other people did to you. This is a belief that was installed in you. This is the trauma that's speaking within you. And the more you can detach from that and actually know, think, recognize that you are good enough, even though you might not feel it right now. You can feel it. It is possible, because of course you're good enough. It was the adoptive parents, it was the whole setup, the adoption setup, all the surroundings. That's what wasn't good enough. It was never you. It was never about you. You were always good enough. I want you to really tap into that. Really remember that. You are good enough. Even though it's difficult, and even though you have bad days, hard days. I have bad days as well. I have days where I'm just filled up with anxiety because of my past, because of the people I'm trying to run away from in order to live this happy life. That's my biggest dream. I still have bad days where I need to call a very dear friend, talk with her, and tell her that this is what's going on in my head. And that's a part of it. We can't arrive to some place where we will never experience remembering the past anymore. I don't think that place exists. I think the place that we want to look for, that we want to head towards, is a place where we allow ourselves to have bad days, but we're not gonna stop living our life because we had this bad day. And that we can arrive to a place where We have so many tools in our toolbox to know how to meet ourselves in these difficult moments, on the difficult days, and that we have enough tools that we have learned to understand what it is we need on this specific day. What do we need from ourselves? Maybe we need to turn off our phones and watch Netflix a whole day. Maybe we need to go to a museum and be there a whole day. I had that day last weekend. I went to a museum with a friend and I didn't look at my phone because I just needed to detach from the outer world, and I just needed to be in this imaginary world of the history about this museum and castle. It was amazing. And we all need that. We all need these days where we are just not pushing ourselves, not expecting to show up perfectly. We can't do that. But it's very normal that we want this perfection and that we are pushing ourselves very hard. Again, this is something that the narcissistic adopters, they taught us to do because that was our job. That was a part of how we could succeed with that job we were given to fulfill their needs. It was to work hard. They wanted to watch us work so damn hard to make them happy. So whenever you are finding yourself working hard, pushing yourself way over the limit, I want you to stop for a moment and really remind yourself, who taught you to push yourself that hard? Who was it that taught you that? And then I want you to reevaluate. Is there other ways that you can complete this task, or is there other ways you can continue with your day or the project without acting like you're doing this for your adoptive parents, without acting like this is a job that you have to fulfill? You don't have to do that. Life does not have to be that hard. This was something your narcissistic adopters made you believe because they benefited from that. They needed that because you were their little slave. But now you are free. You are a free soul. And you can go and do whatever you want to do with your life. They don't hold any power over you anymore. I know that there's a part of you that still believes that, but that's something else. That's different. You are a free soul. When you think about it, you are free. You can work on adding that feeling into your life, into all the other feelings that you also carry. You can work on making space for this feeling that you're actually a free soul. I feel like this video was very different from a lot of my other videos, and I'm not quite sure why, to be honest. I think I really needed to get some things off my chest, because watching these YouTube channels about adoptive families and how amazing they are and happy they are, and watch how they are literally supporting the adoption industry, it still makes me sick. And I realized that, well, one of the ways that we can change it as adopted people is by telling the other side of the story. And that's what I really wanted to do with this video. I wanted to tell the other side of the story of what adopted people actually have been through in these narcissistic adoptive families, because that is also true. I am sending you all my love, and I'm sending you all my blessings, and I have you in my heart with every video that I make. You are not alone, and you will make it to the other side. And I will try my best to support you in that process with my YouTube videos and with my content on my social media platforms. And if you ever feel like you want to work with me personally, there's a link in the description box where you can reach out to me, send me an email. I would love to hear from you. I'll see you in my next video. Bye for now.